All right, folks, let's dive headfirst into the depths of comedy, dissecting the genius of Chris Rock. This man's career spans the good, the bad, and the particularly ugly side of stand-up, shaping what it means to hold a mic in the modern world.
Speak for yourself, Bob. In my day, we didn't just dive in. We took the stage with grace, something Rock does with a twist. He walks on like he owns the place, a bit of confidence we all could use.
Confidence? Ha! Chris didn't just walk in confident. He smashed through doors I open, talking truths some folks are too scared to whisper. Rock took the raw, made it palatable, but never lost the edge.
Palatable? If by that you mean he sharpened it to a point where it cuts through societal fantasies, then sure. Chris isn't just doing comedy, he's performing surgical strikes on the hypocrisies of our time.
And don't forget the heart. The man dives into deep waters, tackling issues with a blend of humor and sincerity, something I've always admired. Comedy isn't just about the laughs, it's about the message, the connection.
A message, eh? Well, in my time, we encoded our messages between the lines, letting them simmer in the audience's minds. Rock, on the other hand, serves it so hot you'll burn your tongue off if you're not paying attention.
Perhaps that burning sensation is what's kept audiences coming back for more, craving the heat of Rock's truth. Each of you, in your unique style, has carved pathways Chris walked, ran, and sometimes sprinted through. Let's explore these pathways, shall we? We're diving straight into the evolution of Chris Rock's comedy style. Richard, you blazed trails for raw, honest comedy. How do you see Chris Rock walking that path?
Man, Chris took the raw truth, the kind of thing that makes people squirm in their seats, and he shoved it in their faces. I told it like it was about race, life, everything. Chris, he's doing the same, but with his own flair. He's like jazz, taking the bass I laid down and riffing off it to make something all his own.
Yeah, but let's not forget evolution. I started clean, then got fed up and changed everything. Rock's been refining, sharpening his teeth on the absurdities of our world. He didn't just walk in raw, he's been honing that edge, getting better at cutting right to the quick.
Confidence, that's the key. I watched this man grow from a timid voice to a powerhouse, commanding the stage like a general. It's not just about being honest, it's about owning your truth with every fiber of your being. Rock does that. He moves with the kind of confidence I had to muster every time I stepped on set.
Commanding the stage like a general? I'd say he's more like a pirate, seizing it. But let's not pat ourselves on the back too hard. Each of us broke the molds of our time, but Rock, he's melting them down. The kid's not just following paths, he's laying down highways where there were dirt roads.
And he's doing it with an energy, a vibrancy that's all his own. Rock's style, it's a fusion of all the pain, the absurdity, and the truth of living in this mad world. We might have lit the spark, but he's the wildfire.
Absolutely. But the evolution? It's in the precision of his words. In my day, I'd scattergun my thoughts seeing what hits. Rock, he's a sniper, picking his targets with a precision that makes every joke hit home.
And ain't afraid to get personal, neither. Rock digs deep, pulls out the kind of truths you're afraid to admit to yourself. That's where comedy hits hardest. In the mirror.
Yes, but in that reflection, he's bringing people together. You might start uncomfortable, but you leave understanding a little more about someone else's truth. That's a gift.
Brings people together? He riles them up, stirs the pot, and sometimes he even gets to taste the soup. Sure, he's reflecting society, but he's also challenging it, making the uncomfortable too blatant to ignore.
Powerful insights all around. Chris Rock has indeed carved his own path, weaving through the legacies left by each of you. His evolution, not just as a comedian, but as a voice in our culture, reflects a blend of raw honesty, evolving confidence, and a precision in delivery that elevates his comedy into something that's not just heard, but felt. We're delving deep into Chris Rock's seismic impact on the stand-up comedy landscape. Carlin, kick us off. How has Rock pushed the envelope?
Rock isn't just pushing the envelope, he's shredding the damn thing. Stand-up was always about poking the bear, but Chris goes for the jugular. He takes those taboo subjects, race, politics, relationships, and doesn't just make us laugh, he makes us think. He's a truth teller, often saying what others are too scared to mention outside their living room.
And let's not forget, he does that standing on the shoulders of giants. We didn't shy away from the tough topics, did we, George? But Chris, he's got this way of cutting through the fluff, getting straight to the marrow. It's raw. It's real.
Absolutely, Rich. He's talking to an audience that might not want to hear what he's saying, but he's so damn charming and funny that they listen. And man, do they think afterward. It's like he's using comedy as a scalpel, just dissecting society's sacred cows right in front of us.
Well, I must say his influence stretches far beyond just making folks chuckle uncomfortably in their seats. He's crafting conversations, starting dialogues that continue long after the mic drops. That's the hallmark of a truly impactful comedian.
Speaking of starting dialogues, I think what we're all dancing around here is Rock's uncanny ability to draw a line and then casually hop back and forth over it. The man's a veritable acrobat of social commentary.
It's his fearlessness that does it. Rock goes after those societal issues with a sledgehammer when most are barely willing to use a feather duster.
And through it all, his humanity shines. He's not just cracking jokes, he's holding up a mirror. It's comedy with a soul, and boy, does it resonate.
It resonates because it's laced with pain. There's a palpable sense of struggle in his humor, a reflection of his own life experiences. That's why it hits home.
I think what truly sets Rock apart is how he's revered across the board. You've got the young, the old, the conservatives, the liberals. Everyone finds something in his comedy. It's no small feat in today's divided world.
And let's give the man credit for being unapologetically honest. In an era where every word is scrutinized, Rock's authenticity is a beacon for the rest of us mere mortals.
It's unanimous, then. Chris Rock's impact on stand-up comedy isn't just about the laughs. It's about causing reflection, sparking conversations, and daring to address the elephant in the room. He's not just standing on the shoulders of giants. He's climbing higher, pushing us all to raise our game. All right, let's dive into political satire, something Chris Rock has a knack for. Groucho, your take on weaving politics into comedy?
Well, Bob, I've always said, politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies. Chris, though, he's sharper than a tack. He finds that trouble, diagnoses it correctly, and sometimes his remedies are just what the doctor ordered: laughter mixed with a heavy dose of truth.
That's cute, Groucho, but let's cut deeper. Chris doesn't just skim the surface, he excavates the absurdity of our political circus. Satire isn't just about making people laugh, it's about exposing the grotesque reality under the powdered wig. Rock understands this. He's not just a comedian, he's a modern-day jester, poking holes in the inflated egos of our so-called leaders.
Laughter has the power to unite people, even in divisive times. Chris uses his platform to shine a light on issues that matter, cutting through partisan noise with humor.
And don't forget, he's a black man in America using satire as a weapon. That's a tightrope walk right there. He's not just making jokes, he's making statements, risky ones at that. Political satire in his hands becomes a tool for survival, for resistance.
Exactly, Richard. And it's all about delivery. Chris can deliver a punchline that makes you laugh and think. He doesn't just slap you with truth, he wraps it in humor, so it hits harder and sticks longer.
Strikes me, though, that today's political arena almost satirizes itself. Rock's genius is in making us see the script behind the farce.
And yet, the farce goes on. You see, what Rock and the rest of us do, what we must do, is keep chipping away at the monolith of absurdity. Satire is the tool, but the goal? Maybe it's to make sure laughter still rings out when the curtain falls on this tragic comedy we call politics.
Passionate thoughts all around. Chris Rock's blend of humor and candid observation does more than entertain. It challenges, enlightens, in its own unique way, connects us. Let's keep this momentum as we move into our next discussion. All right, let's delve into Chris Rock's masterful handling of race and social commentary. It's a topic he's rarely shied away from. Richard, kick us off.
Chris ain't afraid of the truth, man. He holds up a mirror to society's ugly faces just like I did. It's not about making people comfortable. It's about making them face reality.
Well, he certainly has a knack for bringing universal truths to light in a way that's relatable across all audiences. That takes a special kind of courage and a keen eye for the absurdities of life.
Courage? Bah, more like audacity. Chris dares to say what others only think in their dullest moments. If I had a dime for every taboo subject he's tackled, I'd be a wealthy man. Wealthier, I mean.
Audacity's the right word, Groucho. But it's a refined audacity, coupled with an insight that cuts deeper than most. He doesn't just poke the bear, he dissects it, showing us its anatomy and making us ask, why did we keep this bear around again?
That's just it. He ain't poking bears, he's slapping 'em awake. Talking about race, Chris goes deeper than most dare to swim. We ain't just talking skin color, we're talking the deep systemic rot.
And yet through it all, there's this undeniable hope in his voice, a belief that despite our flaws, there's humor to be found in our collective struggle, a laughter that heals, or at least stings less.
It's a delicate balance, humor and truth. Not many can walk that tightrope without falling off now and then.
Delicate? Bah. About as delicate as a freight train. What Chris understands and what some of us have always known is that comedy is a weapon, and he's not afraid to use it.
And yet, with all this talk of weapons and battles, what Chris really does is bridge gaps. His comedy is like a conversation, albeit a loud, uncomfortable one at times.
It's clear, then, that Chris Rock's influence on discussing race and social commentary extends beyond just making us laugh. He makes us think, reconsider, and more importantly, engage with the world around us. Whether through a roar of laughter or a pang of discomfort, Chris Rock's message resounds. Let's pivot to something deeply personal, the role of pain and struggle in shaping humor. Chris Rock's Tambourine delves into this, and I believe each of you has a take on comedy as a salve for the soul.
Man, let's cut right to it. Pain fuels comedy. It's that simple. Rock gets it. I lived it. You can't tell me about the darkness unless you've been there, turning it into something that can light up a room. That's comedy.
While I agree, Richard, we can't all ignore that turning pain into laughter is a delicate art. Rock does it with finesse, but it's not just about airing dirty laundry. It's cathartic, yes, but it's also about connecting, about sharing that, hey, we've all been there.
Absolutely, Lucille. There's this profound healing in laughter. Tambourine wasn't just about jokes. It was Rock laying bare his heartaches, making his audience find comfort in their shared experiences of pain.
But let's not get overly sentimental about it. The catharsis of comedy doesn't come from pain alone. It's the insight, the punch that wakes you up. Chris Rock, like any comic worth their salt, knows pain isn't just to be shared. It's to be dissected, understood.
And yet, dissect too much and you kill the frog, or the joke in this case. Pain is a tool, not the blueprint. Rock uses it, sure, but it's his razor-sharp wit that turns it into comedy gold. Not everyone crying in the wilderness makes for a prophet or a comedian. Dissection or not, it's about truth. Real, raw, unadulterated truth. Chris lays it bare, and that's why it hits. You think audiences laugh because it's funny? Nah, they laugh because it's true.
I'd argue it's about balance. You can't just throw pain at people and call it comedy. Chris Rock, like any great comedian, finds the laughter in the darkness, not just the darkness itself.
There's this notion that all comedians are clowns crying on the inside. Rock challenges that. Yes, he talks about his struggles, but he also empowers. His pain isn't just a punchline, it's a shared human condition that we can all overcome.
Empowerment? Please. Comedy's job is to call out the BS, to take the pain and show it for what it is, absurd, ridiculous, and often the result of our own idiocy. Rock's no different.
Though, let's not forget, amidst all this talk of pain and suffering, the goal is to entertain. If the audience wanted pure agony, they'd listen to opera. Rock makes you think, sure, but he makes you laugh harder.
So, it seems we can agree. Pain, in the hands of someone like Chris Rock, becomes more than just personal suffering. It's a shared experience, a common language of laughter and insight. Interestingly, through this discussion, we've uncovered another layer to comedy itself, not just as entertainment, but as a sort of communal therapy. Let's leap into the artistry behind hitting the mark every time you're on stage. Chris Rock, now there's a fellow who can time a punchline as if he invented the clock.
Timing. That eludes some comedians, much like fidelity in Hollywood marriages. But Rock, he masters this, dodging boredom as deftly as I dodged matrimony.
It certainly isn't merely about the words, it's how you serve them. Chris didn't just say something, he presented it, gift-wrapped in his own unmistakable style.
Absolutely. Like painting with voices, you know? His tone could go from whisper to a shout, turning the air blue, yet you'd listen as if your life's secrets were being told.
It's the difference in modulation, the highs and lows, that crafts the impact. Chris spins these using silence like a blade to carve out laughter from thin air.
Yes, but don't gloss over the man's ability to throw his voice into the ring of societal critique, jabbing without seeming to look. That's the real art. Yet thrusting with verbal jabs requires an opponent who understands the game. Audiences aren't just spectators, they're participants, bobbing and weaving with every punchline thrown.
And there lies the genius, making each word count, each pause heavier than the silence in a confessional. Rock, like the greats here, knows the weight of silence.
It's dance, really, the ebb and flow, the giving and taking. Chris steps back, leading with silence, then swings with the timing of a seasoned pugilist.
In that dance, he's tapping into a rhythm that speaks to the truth behind the laughter. That's the essence of great comedy, enlightening while entertaining.
It's the spark in the dark, igniting thoughts with laughter as the kindling. Rock hurls lightning, illuminating truths with a grin.
That spark fans into flames, doesn't it? It's not just telling a joke, it's lighting a fire, using words as flint.
Conclusively, in the realm where timing and tone reign supreme, Rock is not just a comedian. He's a maestro, orchestrating an experience where each laugh carries a note of truth, a stroke of genius. Let's dive into how Chris Rock has paved the way for new comedians. Lucille, you've seen your share of up-and-comers. What's your take?
Chris, darling, he's got that special something like an electric spark. In my day, we carved our own paths, but what he's doing is laying down a whole highway for others. It's not just about cracking jokes, it's about cracking doors open for the next generation.
The mentorship angle. I get it, but let's not polish the halo just yet. It's rough out there. Chris teaches by example, sure. He shows you can take the hard stuff, life's garbage, and turn it into gold. But it's not like he's personally tutoring the next Carlin. It's survival of the funniest. Always has been.
Oh, come on, George. Give the guy some credit. He's not just tossing breadcrumbs behind him. He's showing the ropes, sharing the spotlight. Chris reaches out, pulls people up. It's about making sure the laughter keeps going, long after we've told our last joke.
Survival of the funniest, eh? Well, in my day, we didn't just survive, we thrived. Chris Rock, though, he's not just thriving, he's teaching others to do the same. But don't think it's all sunshine and daisies. It's a jungle out there, and only the ones with the sharpest wit and the quickest comebacks make it out alive. Y'all missing the point. Chris ain't just paving roads or passing down torches. He's igniting fires under folks, making them see the world differently, challenging them. That's what we did, shaking up the system. Chris, he's keeping that alive, making sure comedy stays dangerous.
Dangerous but inclusive. He's broadening the comedy circle, inviting different voices in. It's not just about being seen anymore, it's about being heard and making sure what's being said matters.
So what we're saying is, Chris Rock's legacy isn't just in the laughs, but in the leadership. He's building something that'll last, ensuring the future of comedy is as vibrant and challenging as ever.
Exactly, Bob. He's not just playing the game, he's changing it, making sure everyone gets a chance to play. That's something special.
As long as they're playing by their own rules. Chris is setting an example, but the best way to honor that is to be relentlessly your own comedian.
And if you can steal some of his jokes along the way, well, that's just the icing on the cake.
Stealing jokes is where we draw the line, Groucho. But inspiring, mentoring, and elevating others, that's the Rock way. And it's a path worth following. Let's dive into the world beyond the stand-up stage, where Chris Rock has left an indelible mark on film and television. His versatility stands out. Groucho, your transition from stage to screen was seamless. How do you see similarities with Chris Rock's journey?
Well, Bob, the secret to any great comedian's success on screen is the ability to adapt while keeping the essence of their humor intact. Rock has this uncanny ability to smuggle his stand-up persona into every character he plays, much like I did. Only, I had a cigar. But let's not sugarcoat it. Transitioning isn't just about keeping your persona. It's about evolving it. Chris didn't just move to film and TV, he brought a new depth to it. Something I tried in my work, to bring the raw, real side of life to the screen.
That's all fine and dandy, but what impresses me about Rock is his behind-the-scenes work. Directing, producing, he's shaping the landscape, not just appearing in it. It's one thing to star in a show, quite another to run the show.
The truth is, maintaining comedic integrity in film and TV is like trying to hold on to a bar of soap in prison. It's slippery, and not everyone can manage it. Rock manages to keep his edge, which is vital in an industry that often tries to sand down those very edges.
Absolutely, George. And Chris's achievements in film and television stem from his willingness to tackle uncomfortable subjects head-on. He uses these platforms not just for laughs, but for commentary. It's brave, it's bold, and it's necessary.
Not to mention, he does all this without losing his humor. You know, I once said, humor is reason gone mad, and Rock embodies this. He's managed to stay madly reasonable in an industry that often lacks both.
It's clear then, Chris Rock's influence and contributions to film and television are not just extensions of his stand-up, but a testament to his ability to evolve and impact the broader cultural conversation.
Exactly, Bob. It's about using every tool at your disposal to make a statement, to evoke a reaction. Chris Rock does that, and he does it with the same fearless authenticity he brought to stand-up. It's powerful.
And let's not forget, he paves the way for others. He's not just building his own legacy, he's building a platform for voices that might otherwise not be heard. That's the kind of leadership we need more of.
Leadership, yes, but let's hope those following in his footsteps remember the responsibility that comes with the microphone, whether it's on stage, on set, or behind the camera. Chris Rock sure does.
Indeed, my friends. His journey from the stand-up stages to the screens of the world is a roadmap for artists everywhere. Be true to your voice, be bold in your creativity, and never forget to laugh at the absurdity of it all.
A fine point to end on. Chris Rock has indeed taken his comedy to every conceivable medium, and in doing so, has forever changed the landscape. Wrestling with the same subjects that challenge society, he reminds us that laughter is not just the best medicine, but a powerful tool for change. All right, folks, let's dive into the global reach of Chris Rock's comedy. Does his humor cross the international divide, or is it as American as apple pie? George, you often spoke about the universal absurdity of life. What's your take?
Chris doesn't just cross the international divide, he practically ignores it. His themes, politics, societal norms, race, these aren't uniquely American issues. They're human issues. It's like he's saying, welcome to the freak show, here's your hat. Everyone, no matter where they're from, understands the circus.
I've got to chime in here. Chris's ability to appeal globally also shows how much the world has shrunk. In my day, we hoped our shows got syndicated across the US, let alone around the world. Rock's humor about everyday frustrations and absurdities translates because nowadays everyone's watching the same show. Life.
Absolutely, and let's not forget the power of genuine emotion. Chris speaks to the heart. He makes you laugh, think, and sometimes want to cry. That emotional roller coaster doesn't need a passport. Laughter is universal, but so are tears, and Chris masterfully blends the two.
Speaking of the whole world watching, in the end, we're all just looking for a good laugh. Chris throws a pie in the face of subtlety and hits the back row in Tokyo just as easily as the front row in New York. Of course, if they don't laugh, we can always say it was lost in translation. See, the thing about Chris and what really breaks the borders down is his honesty. I laid down some of that groundwork, talking about real issues. People everywhere respect when you're honest with them, even if it's wrapped in a joke. Chris talks about American issues, yes, but the feelings, the frustrations, the injustices, that's everywhere, man.
And let's not gloss over the fact that while we're debating the universality of his comedy, Chris is out there doing it. He's not waiting for an invitation. He's on the global stage, making the whole damn world his domain.
Plus, the man knows his audience. You don't go telling meat jokes in India or diving into the intricacies of American politics in rural China. It's about the human experience, and last I checked, that's still a pretty relatable topic worldwide.
It seems we're in agreement then. Chris's reach and impact extend far beyond any single culture or country. He speaks a global language, humor. Thanks for a lively discussion, everyone. Let's see what other boundaries we can push in our next segment. Now, let's steer our conversation toward the horizon. Comedy's future, in the light of Chris Rock's legacy, what do we see forging ahead?
I reckon the door Chris has opened is only going to swing wider. He's blazed a trail, and now it's up to the next generation to push through with more diversity and, oh, dare I say, even a bit of elegance amongst the chaos.
Diversity, yes, but it's more than just who's telling the jokes. It's about the stories we're telling, the truths we're exposing. Chris never shied away from the raw and the real. That's the baton that needs passing.
Future? It's all cyclical, folks. We push boundaries, then we push back. Chris threw some real punches, but this battle of wits and wisdom isn't new. It's persistent. The future of comedy, it's going to be a mirror to society, except, with better lighting.
Oh, absolutely, George. There's this relentless drive in comedy to peel back the layers of the human psyche, exposing the absurdity of our reality. Chris did it with finesse, and the next brigade, inspired by him, will undoubtedly fuse humor with humanity, maybe with a dash more empathy, if we're lucky.
Empathy? Bah, comedy is the art of the intellect, of the rapier wit slicing through society's veils. Rock's legacy isn't just empathy, it's a challenge, a duel with conventional wisdom. The future? More duels, more wit, and certainly more challenges.
So we all agree, Chris's influence will be felt far into the future, shaping not just the content of comedy, but its very soul. Gentleman, lady, it's been enlightening. All right, folks, we're winding down to our final reflections on Chris Rock's legacy. Richard, lead us off, will you?
Talking about Chris makes me reflect on the courage it takes to stand up there and peel yourself like an onion for everyone to see. Rock's out there, raw and real, just like the rest of us tried to be. You've got to admire that kind of honesty in comedy.
Honesty's just the starting point. It's the intelligence behind Chris's humor that sets him apart. He's not just throwing jokes, he's throwing spears that pierce through the social fabric. That's the kind of weaponized humor we need more of.
Oh, please. Intelligence is great, but without a pioneering spirit, where would Chris be? Heck, where would any of us be? He didn't just follow paths, he blazed them. In that way, I feel a kinship with him. We both took risks that others might have shied away from.
Admirable, sure, but let's not gloss over mastery of satire. It's one thing to make people laugh, another to make them think. Chris Rock manages both, often in the same breath. He's like a magician, showing you the truth while making you wonder how he pulled it off.
And let's not forget compassion, folks. Behind the humor, there's a profound sense of humanity. Chris doesn't just use comedy as a weapon, he uses it as a healing tool, much the same way we all have. We laugh at our pains, our absurdities, and through that laughter, we find common ground.
Well said, all of you. If there's anything to take from our roundtable, it's that comedy, much like society, evolves. And in Chris Rock, we see not just the reflection of our times, but the hopes for our future. He, like many of us, tackles the hard truths with a smile, a laugh, and sometimes a grimace. Comedy isn't just about making people laugh. It's about making people think, feel, and maybe, just maybe, change. Chris Rock stands on the shoulders of giants, sure, but he's also paving the way for the next generation. And that, my friends, is no laughing matter. Well, actually, it is, and thankfully so.